Every so often, someone tells me they got interested in card counting, but then they read this article on 888casino.com called 7 Reasons to Never Count Cards, and instantly all their hopes and dreams are shattered. Should you never count cards? Well, let me respond with my thoughts on this article right now. I'm Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship. Over my career, I started out as a card counter and I've won over $600,000 as a card counter. I've also been a part of running teams that are responsible for taking about $4 million out of casinos. And for over a decade, I've been a part of running Blackjack Apprenticeship, which teaches people how to legally beat casinos with card counting. And quite a few people have mentioned this article to me, and it has 7 points to it. And I thought, rather than just saying, some of it I agree, some I disagree with, why don't I go through the 7 steps in the article and let you know how strongly I agree or disagree with each point. The first point in the article is that it's hard to learn. The article kind of paints card counting as this really overwhelming task, and it talks about learning rule variations in the game and over 250 different playing decisions. Now, the problem with this is that hard is a really subjective term, and the article is trying to paint learning card counting as a very overwhelming task. So let me bring something a little more concrete to it. It takes the average person about 200 hours to go from knowing nothing to mastering card counting. But to make it sound like basic strategy is this really complicated 250 different playing decisions to learn, I would disagree with that. I actually asked our members on Blackjack Apprenticeship on our forum, how long did it take you guys to memorize basic strategy? And the consensus was you could memorize the chart in a weekend. People said 2 to 5 hours to have the chart perfectly memorized. Now, it's going to take longer to never make a mistake, but it's not this completely overwhelming 250 memorized decisions. I suppose it's up to you if you consider that hard or not. If you're looking for a really easy get-rich-quick scheme that you can learn in a weekend, this is not for you. But when I got into card counting, the way I approached it is, hey, if I treat this like a full-time job and I can have this skill down in a month or two, that did not seem like an overwhelming task when you consider what other valuable skills can you really have mastered that quickly. Granted, lots of people don't like things that take time, effort, or discipline, and so those people are not going to have success at card counting. Due to the fact that 200 hours of training to have a valuable skill that can make you upwards of hundreds of dollars an hour, to me, that does not seem very hard. I'm gonna have to give this an eye roll on the agree to disagree scale. The second point of the article is that it's hard to find a good game as a card counter. And again, it's using a blanket statement for something that's a little bit more subjective. This is like saying no one should become a surfer because most people don't live near the beach. It's absolutely true that there are some countries and regions of the world where there are terrible blackjack games, and I would never recommend card counting. If you live in a part of the world where you don't have access to a beatable game, then yes, you should not become a card counter. And don't think that you're going to make money playing online blackjack, because the games on those live dealer blackjack games on online casinos are worthless. However, if you're in part of the world where you do have access to beatable blackjack games, like pretty much anywhere in the US, then this statement is just not true. The pros I've trained through Blackjack Apprenticeship are expecting to make $200 an hour or more at the blackjack tables, and they're doing that month in and month out all across the country, some people across the world. Now, it's not like just getting a job at your local coffee shop and walking in to work each day. But if you've got access to our casino database, then a simple search will show you how many beatable games still exist. The reality is, not every region of the world has beatable blackjack games, but for many of us, there are more beatable casinos than we have time for. So for this one, I'm gonna have to give it a not really on the agree to disagree scale. The third point in the article is that it's hard to actually count cards in a casino, and they give 2 reasons for this. The first is because of the distractions in a casino, all the other players and the sounds and all that stuff. But again, that's why the skill takes 200 hours to master. Probably 100 of the hours it takes of training is gonna be in a real casino, getting comfortable to doing a skill in that environment. If you're not interested in mastering a skill, or if you lack the focus to be able to do this in a casino environment, then yeah, please do not learn card counting. However, And this point was already covered above. If you put the time in and you've got the right temperament for it, this will not be an issue. The second reason, and this is the one that I really disagree with, is that the casinos are just going to back you off as soon as you try counting cards in a casino. The article states typically you'll have less than 1 hour of quality playing time. I have no idea where this number came from, but it is absolutely absurd. Yes, casino countermeasures are a part of the job, and I've talked about this plenty of times before, but if you're getting backed off every hour, you are clearly doing something wrong. And this whole thing got me wondering, well, how long does the average player last at a casino before they get backed off? So I surveyed our members at Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I got information that accounts for over 10,000 playing hours of quality card counters. So with both part-time and full-time card counters, the math worked out that they experienced a back-off for every 76 hours of casino playing time. Granted, high-stakes, full-time professional card counters are going to have more back-offs than a casual part-time player, but when I separated the results just for pros, this is people making $200 an hour or more, it worked out that they only experienced a back-off for every 25 hours of casino time. The members at Blackjack Apprenticeship got such a kick out of this because it is just so absurd and so far from the experience of real card counters, saying that you're going to get an hour of playing time per casino. Now, I know not everyone can handle the rejection, the conflict, the swings, and the travel, and that's why so few people become professional card counters. Card counting isn't easy, and casinos don't like winners, but because this claim of an hour per casino is just so ridiculously wrong, I'm going to give this a facepalm on the agree to disagree scale. The fourth point of the article is that the profit potential of a card counter is very low. And in this, he provides some statistics of how much a card counter with a $100 top bet can expect to make. There's a saying that 99% of statistics only tell 49% of the story, and I would say that's what I think is going on with this point in the article. I could tell you about times that I've generated $200 to $300 an hour in EV playing $100 max games. Heck, I could even tell you about a time that we found a game where we could generate $200 an hour just betting $25 at the table, but I actually can't tell you that story. And of course, those stories are the exception to the rule, which I'm perfectly happy to admit. This article, however, is working really hard to share the other biased side of the story. Without getting into all the nitty gritty, basically, yeah, if you've got a $5,000 bankroll and you can only bet up to $100 max and you're playing really mediocre to crummy games at slow tables, you're only going to make $10 to $20 an hour as a card counter. If that's the upper limit of all you'll ever be able to do as a card counter, then you should be prepared to know this. Just like the really bad cheddar video that I broke down a while ago, this article fails to talk about how card counting scales. Look, think about any job you've ever had. You know that the entry-level pay is not the potential that the job truly has. With card counting, it's even more so because as your bankroll grows, so does your betting, and so does your EV. He talks about a $5,000 bankroll. Well, when you grow that to $10,000, you can be betting, we'll say 2 spots of 100 and generating twice as much, $30 to $40 an hour. Then, when your bankroll grows, let's say to $25,000, you can be generating about $80 an hour in EV. And if you're able to get to the point where you've grown to a larger bankroll, say $50,000 or higher, you're expecting to make at least $100 an hour, if not $200 or more at the tables as a card counter. That's the teams that we ran. We're expecting to make at least $200 an hour at the tables because we'd grown our bankrolls. I'm not trying to sugarcoat things and say, yeah, go make $100 an hour with a $1,000 bankroll. That's not true. I started out making $5 to $7 an hour at the tables, but within a year, I was making $200 an hour at those same blackjack tables. I've averaged over $400 an hour at the tables during the professional part of my career, which is in line with my friends who are also professional card counters. So I'm not claiming whether you should or shouldn't become a card counter, but because this article is clearly only giving half the picture, I'm going to have to give this a no on the agree to disagree scale. The fifth point in this article is that the bankroll swings as a card counter can be brutal, and I honestly agree with this. One of the hardest parts about being a card counter is the swings. I've talked about it in my book and here on YouTube about the losses and the losing streaks that you can go on. That's why I always say that card counting is a marathon, not a sprint. I've only got one issue with this bullet point in the article, and that's that the bet spread used to make a claim that 1 in 6 card counters will be down after 500 hours of play, that's a very poorly optimized bet spread. We card counters absolutely care about this stuff, and so we optimize our bet spreads and play quality playing conditions to keep that long run shorter. Does that mean you're going to win every session? Absolutely not. Does that mean you're going to win every 100 hours? No. But for a well-optimized bet spread, it should be that 1 in 20 card counters is around even after 500 hours of play. For that one guy, that sucks. However, a pro is probably going to be playing at least 1,000 hours a year, in which case the odds of being down is about 1 in 200. The bottom line is that you've got to have the stomach, the mental and emotional fortitude to handle the swings if you want to be a professional card counter. Because I do mostly agree with this point, I'm going to give the article a pass and give this you're not wrong on the agree to disagree scale. The 6th point in the article is that you will get caught. And to be honest, the 6th and 7th point in the article are kind of rehashing things that have already been talked, but I do think they're worth addressing here. Now, we've already talked about this, but yes, if you are a winning player and you're taking money out of casinos, then they are going to show you the door at some point. But if you want to hear the full picture, you can listen to podcast interviews I've done with 6 and 7 figure card counters, and they're not going to sugarcoat it from you. They're going to tell you the lows and the highs of being a professional card counter, not to mention plenty of interviews with part-timers that they're not having to live off of card counting, but they'll tell you what it's like out there in the trenches. But since this is really just a rehashing of point number 3 in the article, I'm going to give this the Jimmy Butler really face on the agree to disagree scale. Point number 7 in the article is that after you're caught, your picture will be distributed. You've heard of the infamous databases and black book of card counters? Well, I'm in all of them. So are nearly every one of my professional card counter advantage player friends. Is it annoying? Yes. Has it stopped any of us from taking money out of casinos? No. The reality is most casinos actually don't upload you to databases, though some of them do, and some of my friends get an absolute kick out of this, and they'll go into a casino well known for putting people in databases, and they'll wear some ridiculous costume to see if they can get their picture uploaded to the database wearing something absurd. The bottom line is the cat and mouse game between casinos and advantage players is nothing new. But this kind of Orwellian paranoid fear tactic is a bit overblown. Because this claim is generally true, I'm going to give this the Mark Cuban headshake on the agree to disagree scale. At the end of the day, you're going to have to decide for yourself whether you think that I'm being unbiased or this article is unbiased. It's up for you to decide. I'm trying to put what I believe is true out there, and you can make your own assessment. For more on the truth behind casino backoffs and countermeasures, check out our video on that topic right here. And if this 888 Casinos article didn't scare you off, you can subscribe below and learn more about card counting here on this channel.